Today let's talk about tune-ups. Let's say your car's not running as well as you think it should, or maybe you just got it and you just don't know where to start. So what do? Most of the time people know you start with a tune-up. But what does that mean? What does that consist of? So we're going to talk about that today. Now your first step always is going to be get yourself a service manual if you don't already have it. It's going to show you all the specs, all the pieces, all the everything, and your owner's manual can be a great guide for this as well. It'll give you a full service schedule. So here we have a real basic standard 240. A little bit dirty because of its age, still runs great, but maybe needs a little bit of things done to it to kind of get it in tip-top shape and bring back a little bit of life into it. So what's involved in that? Now, if you've done tune-ups in the past, you know that usually that means you're going to put new spark plugs in and the associated components. Cap, rotor, maybe some spark plug wires. If you look on the motor here, it's real easy to identify this stuff on these cars. Side-driven distributor on a 240. On some of the 700, 900 series cars, you have the distributor on the back of the head, but it's all the same kind of idea. Now, you can check out our other video that we've done on this that shows some more of the specifics and explains those pieces. And what else do you do beyond that, though? Now, people know, well, maybe I should change the filters, but what does that mean? You've got a few different filters that are very important to the way the engine maintains and the way the engine runs. You've got your engine air filter, which in this car is going to be over on that side, but on other cars will be over here. Just check that. If it's dirty, replace it. Easy swap, does a lot for performance. Fuel filter can be in a couple different spots and doesn't require changing that often, but it is also important. On this model, you'll see it over on the firewall by the brake booster. On later model cars, it's underneath next to the fuel pump. But same idea there. Change it when it needs it and consult your service manual if you're not sure on what kind of mileage intervals there are. Now, while you're in here, it's important to just pay attention to things. When you're changing the spark plugs, look and see if you see any weird sooty marks around the exhaust manifold, showing that maybe you need to change the gaskets here because you got a leak. Check and see if you see excessive oil next to the oil filter down there under the exhaust manifold. See if you got any dripping on the engine harness or anything like that. Check and make sure you've got plenty of fluid in your coolant reservoir. Make sure it doesn't look like it's a funny color, and if it is, flush it out. Basically, it's all the pieces that are wearable and consumable. Need to be refreshed sometimes. It's a little different depending on the car, but you can always start with your service guide and your owner's guide as kind of the skeleton of what your service schedule should be. Another key thing to think about when you're doing a tune-up is the Pcv system. On the red block cars, which is 240, 740, 940s, it's a little bit of a pain to inspect and change, so sometimes it goes ignored, and especially in higher mileage cars, this can cause issue. Pcv system is just there to help vent excess crankcase pressure, and when that doesn't happen or it becomes clogged, it pushes oil out. So it's real easy to check that when you're doing the tune-up. Just make sure that if you're unsure of where it is, you look in the service manual. You're going to find it around the intake manifold on all these cars, whether it's on top or underneath. If you have questions on this, you can check out on the website. We've got diagrams and we've got part descriptions of what those things do. Now, on top of that, the last thing I want to mention in here is while you're poking around is look at the drive belts. Now, timing belt, V-belt, water pump aren't necessarily things that are considered tune-up, but they're a great piece of maintenance, especially if you don't know the mileage when it was done last. Very important in maintaining proper operation of the engine and getting the full potential out of it. You don't want to get stranded, and you don't want the timing belt to skip a tooth and lose performance or possibly cause ignition pain. These are all things that are, again, not real basic, everyday tune-up stuff, but things to be aware of and things to look at to get your car back into tip-top shape. So that's it for the basics of tune-ups. If you have questions on which kit is appropriate for your car and to find all the appropriate tune-up pieces for your specific year, make, and model, check out our website at ipdusa.com.